What's up, War Report family? I am your host, C Dub. Unfortunately, we got to talk about Auburn basketball, but there is good news in today's show. We will be discussing spring ball, which starts tomorrow under Hugh Freeze. And we want to ask you, how good is Hugh Freeze really with developing QBs? We're going to find out this spring, but we're going to hear from Mike G, B. Will, and as well as you watching with us. We want to see your comments and your feedback on what you think about Hugh Freeze and what he will do with our current quarterbacks on a roster. All that and more in today's edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Report Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones, Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
Welcome, everyone. Happy Sunday. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us on the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by our show sponsor, Athletic Architects. Guys, show us love by showing love to our supporters. And we thank Athletic Architects for being a sponsor of the Weekend Tailgate, as well as just a partner with the War Report. Please go to buildthehouse.com. Listen, if you are a co-worker with someone who's related to a student athlete, or just someone who has a business idea, not quite sure how to get it off the ground, Athletic Architects is the place for you. Again, buildthehouse.com. Thanks again to them for being our show sponsor. And we want to thank you guys again for hanging out with us. But we'll be even more thankful if you shared this video on social media, Facebook, Twitter. Let people know we out here. Help them join in on the conversation. While you're here, we want to know that you were here by smashing that like button. Views are great. Like buttons are even better because it helps us in the algorithm. Do that. Subscribe. Guys, Mike G's been saying it, but we really are dangerously close to 10K.
We're hilariously close to 10K.
I can smell what 10K, like 10K has a scent. Did you know that?
You're
that close.
I understand it.
Please subscribe, guys. Help us do that. Also, Mike G's going to...
We need 10 subs. We need 10 subs to hit 10K. Just 10.
Just 10.
Just tell y'all. Just make some fake accounts.
There's going to be a special live. Raising 10 subs.
Just make some fake accounts or something. 10K.
But Mike G, tell the people about the content that we're producing in this off season, how you can get access to it.
Well, Caesar says smash that like button. I say, damn that, smash that patron button. That's a button we got here too at the War Report. Become a patron, $5.99. We'll get you there. So beside getting to 10K, it would be awesome if all 10K of those people were patrons, because then we could quit everything we ever did in life and just be on the War Report 8 hours a day. I wouldn't do that, but you guys get the point. So become a patron, help support our content, and you can help somebody else get a taste of what it's like to be a patron by gifting a membership. Look for that gifted membership button. They select these at random. So if you are one of our most ardent listeners, but you have not become a patron, you're most likely to be the recipient of one of these memberships that other members are giving away. So become a patron. Last but not least, listen, guys, the Auburn Express podcast is hot out here in these streets. Brian is putting out that hot five for you guys via podcast. We got the Amen Corner podcast. We got Mike Back in Memes. We've got the Morning Drop. We've got our regular content on podcasts. If you just like audio and you don't want to look at our faces, this is the thing for you. So become a subscriber on podcasts. Check us out on every single podcast platform. The Auburn Express is hot. We're trying to climb those podcast charts and be the hottest podcast out here in these streets.
Gentlemen, how are we doing?
You know what?
Listen,
I'm
God is good. God is good.
Start off with some thanks, right?
Yeah, you're right. What is it we used to say in church?
All the time.
God is good. So I don't know, man. Like, I hate the. It's funny. It's like you hate to be right about something. Like, you try to, like, everybody's, oh, what's Debbie Downer? And I'm like, see, I don't know. For weeks, if you listen to Mike Mack and Memes and you listen to the basketball podcast that Memes and Ike are doing, we've been waning. I don't know. Ike has been bullish somewhat, right, on the chances. And I just had questions about this team down the stretch and what they could do. This was a demoralizing loss to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And it just, man, it hurt to lose that way because this was the first blowout of the season.
That was the silver lining of the season, right? Like, hey,
no
blowouts. Been in every game we've lost, even as frustrating as they've been, we've been right there. That wasn't the case yesterday.
Right. So it was. I don't know. I'm not in a good place. Therapy's on Monday. We're going to talk about this. I'm going to therapy, and then I'm going to football practice.
They can both be the same thing, can't they?
And now I'm going back to therapy after football.
Hey, football practice is therapy.
That can be both, right?
That is absolutely a real thing. Yes.
Okay. All right. But Mike G is going to both. So good for you, sir.
Mm-hmm.
B Will, how are you feeling, man?
I am. Last Wednesday, before we played Ole Miss, right before the game, I was like, you know what? I expect us to win by 15. Sure. We won by 3. And I made sure to declare that we were every bit as good, if not better than Kentucky. Then we lost by 30. So I am now
bad omen.
I am now doing that Homer Simpson meme, step back into the bushes away from my predictions. And then with the Ike mask, and then I'm coming back out with the Mike G mask, which is we ain't got it. We ain't got it this year, man. We ain't got it. We don't. What we do have is not enough to beat the teams in our league that have talent. That's the stop. We have to play perfect games to stay competitive with these teams. And then even if we play the perfect game for us, which doesn't mean shooting well, that means not having lapses, not missing easy shots, and not fouling out, things like that. So if we play our perfect game with the way we shoot, we still are going to have to do something special at the end to get over the hump. And we can't do that. So when we've played really good games, our last 10, I want to say, you think about the second game against Texas A&M, the Tennessee game, the Bama game at home. Like we are against our best competition. We've been right there in these games. But we seem to be focused for those games. But when it came down to it, man, we don't have anything to close it out. And God forbid we actually don't play a very focused, complete game getting to that last 3 or 4 minutes. Then it gets out of hand. And last night was the first time. Well, I'll say this. Kentucky hadn't shot that well from 3 in a minute. And that's why this result was so lopsided. Like
8 of 13. 8 of 13.
Yeah, they had shot better from 3. If you take everybody's averages, then maybe that's like a 10-point game.
Half of that was Reeves.
Right.
He hit 4 threes. Yeah, he hit 4 threes.
Yeah. So they played above themselves, and we did not play above ourselves to match it. Hence the result on the road. So I have lost. I understand where Ike is coming from. Everybody gets so down on us because really the standard in everybody's head is Final Four because that was our peak, right? It's kind of like with Gus Malzahn. We got to the national championship game in year 1, and everybody was like, all right, we need to just feel like we're 1 or 2 steps away from that. And we got kind of close once again.
See,
maybe.
I don't know. I don't know if that's standard. I don't know if that's standard. I think it's make the tournament, and have a chance to make a run in the tournament. Feel like you can make a run in the tournament.
Well, when I say standard, I mean when people think what's the best possible thing that Auburn basketball could get me in its Final Four, and you think that Bruce can get back. I think
hard to get back there, bro.
But I don't think it's beyond Bruce Pearl, right? We don't think that's beyond Bruce.
But 2 things can be true, right? Like you can think that they can get back there, but also be realistic about like what they can do. I just think that the floor that people are looking for is we're not worried about whether we make the NCAA tourney every year. I know that people, if you watch college basketball, you know that there are ups and downs, there are ebbs and flows to this thing, man.
Right.
Nobody wins it every year, dude. It's always some random Cinderella that goes on a run in the tournament. And so I think that people who watch college basketball understand what college basketball is, right? The tourney is as much luck for some teams as it is seeding, right? And opportunity. And I just think that most fans are thinking, coming from an era where making the tourney was a rarity,
Right.
I'm in the camp that thought that, hey, listen, we are no longer in the era where we have to worry about whether this is going to be a team that makes the tourney.
Yeah,
they're going to make the tourney, and here we are worried about whether they're going to make the tourney. That's what makes this so disappointing. So I don't think it's the ceiling B that people are. It's the floor that people. I think people thought the floor was a little bit higher than this, right? So,
okay. If you're saying the floor should be the tournament, a tournament berth, then I understand that. It's hard for me to be disappointed. We haven't had a better season, sure, but I see what we are. I see the sum of our parts, and I see what our limitations are. You know what I'm saying? If I got a younger brother or a nephew that's like 5'4", and I'm like, hey, go get that thing down off the top of the refrigerator for me. Oh, you can't do that. I'm not gonna get mad that you can't get that thing off the top of the fridge, out of the fridge off the top of the fridge for me. I'm gonna leave your step stool, or you're gonna have to climb a chair, maybe break your neck. You know what I'm saying? Whatever happens, I know that this is what he had to work with. Again, it's gonna come down to why didn't we get more coming in? Because we look suspiciously as inept scoring at times as we did last season. And some of the people
but he tried to bring people in though, right?
Yeah, I'm saying,
right.
But once you know where the step stool is at, I don't expect to have to come tell you every time, right? Like,
right.
I told you where the step stool is at.
So we don't think that Bruce Pearl was like, yeah, okay, so Jarrett and Bryce and Chuma, that was a nice run, but I don't need guys that can shoot anymore. I need other guys. Like that's not what he did. You know what I'm saying? I think he recruits guys of a certain mindset and a certain mentality, and he brings them in and he assumes that he can get them better, and most times they do leave. I don't think there's ever a time when a guy has not left better than they came in. However, some guys have these things and some guys don't, and Bruce has been trying to look in the freshman class or in the transfer portal for a shooter and a scorer for the last 4 seasons straight, and we have not been able to get that guy for the last 4 seasons straight.
I would argue Sharif could have been a dude.
But it took him a minute, though.
He was a scorer.
Yeah.
He was a scorer. He wasn't a shooter, but he was a scorer.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, but that's my point. My point is Sharif could have been a dude, but again, he had to sit out. And then it was just a weird season, and then he was gone. Still thought he should have come back another year.
Probably.
Still, yes. I mean, to play with Okoro, like, man, that would have been nasty. But
Okoro was before him, though, I think.
Yeah.
Okoro was he left before?
After the 1920s.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I had it backwards.
He would have been on the team with Jabari and Walk.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Which would have been crazy.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
That would have been crazy.
That would have been nuts.
These kids just... So, again, my point is just like, listen, I've been bearish on Auburn for weeks.
You have.
I've been bearish on Auburn for weeks, and I'm just thinking, all right, man, we're well past midseason. So this whole thing where we're expecting them to be something different than what they are, the chances of that are going down because, when we think about that 2019 and the team and the turnaround they made, it was about midseason, and then they went on a run.
Towards the end.
Right. Was it toward the end?
It was towards the end. Because they lost embarrassingly to Kentucky that year.
Right, they did.
How many games were left in the season?
It was more than 2, but it was towards the end of the regular season when they played Kentucky and got blasted.
Hold on, wait. Let's
it may have been around the same time, actually.
Let's talk about facts here because I just want to make sure we talk about the same thing. Because in my mind, it was closer to mid. In my mind, it was closer to midseason.
Look it up. Look it up.
So they lost to Kentucky 80-82.
It was in February
on January 19th, right?
Oh, so January 19th.
So that was a close game, right? And then they took some L's in February to LSU and Ole Miss. They beat Vandy, They beat Archie. They lost to Kentucky again, February 23rd.
Okay.
And they
So
had
we're not really
1,
that far
2,
off,
3, 4. Yeah, they have 4 games left, and they went on a 4-game winning streak. So yeah, I guess more toward the end of this season.
This is more towards the end.
Yeah.
I remember that game.
Yeah.
Yeah, they beat Georgia, they beat Mississippi State, they beat Alabama, they beat Tennessee to finish out the season. And I don't know, man. This team just has a different feel to me. They have a different feel to me, and I think that they're talented, but they are inconsistent. And I've been preaching to everybody, listen, when Auburn shoots below 45%, even if it's 43%, their chances of winning games go down this season drastically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They went out and they shot 33%, guys, from the field, while Kentucky shot 56%. I thought Kentucky was going to finish over 60% shooting for the game at one point.
And it was just the perfect storm, because typically in those games when we shoot bad, we're playing good defense. So we're still technically in the game.
Right.
But when the other team is hot and we're not shooting well, you have what you have yesterday.
But here's the stat, and this is what I want everybody to remember, because Bruce Pearl kind of called this result. He said, he noted that there could be a rebounding disparity. And he said, if we get out-rebounded in this game, he said this before the game, we're going to get beat by 40. And they were down by 40 at one point in this game. Now, where did we finish in rebounding? 23-41.
Oof.
Kentucky was plus 18 in rebounds. Yikes, man. Come on. And then when you look at offensive rebounding was pretty even, but defensive rebounding was just poor. And I kept thinking, Flanagan got big boyed on this one rebound where it was just like he was in position. And dude just kind of slid in, bodied him out, and got the rebound. And I was getting frustrated just watching them not get rebounds that I felt like they should have been in position to get. The amount of second chance points that Kentucky got in this game because of defensive rebounds, it was nuts.
I mean, we knew that was going to be an issue with Sheway, though, right?
Yeah,
that's his thing. That's what he does. He's a board getter, and he got them. And
he got 17 rebounds.
We're not built to contest very well in the paint when it comes to rebounding. We're just not built that way. We're not. Jalen is a tall guy, but he's not that tall. He's not a center. He's not built like a center.
Janai has surprised me. I thought Janai would be.
Janai had 1 rebound in this game. 1.
That's the surprise to me.
Janai Broom had 1 rebound in this game.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah. And this has been Auburn. Hear me out, fellas. It feels like every game, every big game especially, or every game, somebody has some surprisingly bad performance in some area that it just historically bad. And then they lose. If Janai Broom has a regular rebounding game for himself, I'm not saying they win, but maybe they don't get beat by 32. Because you're taking away
24.
second chance points from Kentucky. If he has a 10 rebound game, when they were plus 18 on rebounds, this is a different result, I think. Again, Wendell Green 3 for 12 from the field, man. Yikes.
Well, to me, you mentioned rebounds, right? I mean, Mike.
Yeah.
To me, you only had 4 assists. What are you doing on offense as a team?
He's trying
to 4 assists. Yeah, you're doing it, but you're not running the offense.
This was a historically bad performance.
It was.
It was bad. And so again, the gap between this whole thing is about what this team's floor is. Their floor is on the bottom, man. It's in hell. It is literally in the center of the earth.
I'm not saying that about Auburn. I'm saying our floor isn't as high as it has been in previous seasons.
Okay, wordsmith. Listen, B's talking semantics here. Listen.
All right.
The floor sucks, man. It's low, right? Imagine a contractor comes in and builds a house, right? And he just says, you know what? I'm not going to put a floor in this one. Y'all just can walk on the ground. That's Auburn basketball this season, man, when it comes to some of these losses.
It's kind of harsh, but okay.
Right. But defensively, they have been able to stay in games because they are one of the best defensive teams in the country. But they are not allowed to have a night off defensively.
Right.
And yeah,
And that can happen.
Yeah,
that can happen.
Right. So I don't want to hear nothing about defense in this game. Right. Sometimes you just got to score to beat people. It's the same in almost every sport. It's the same in football. Sometimes you have a great defense, but you got to score to beat people. Georgia had a great defense last year. But you know what? They had to find points against Ohio State.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because their defense is going to have, every once in a while, man, you're just going to play somebody who they're going to get hot, or the other coach just has a better game plan. Sometimes you just get out-coached a little bit. Now, you need the other side of what you do to be good. And offensively, Auburn has not been able to depend on the other side of what they do to be good to carry them. They have just not.
Again, we have said that Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler, those guys covered a multitude of sins based on what they were able to do.
Especially Walker Kessler, Caesar.
Yes.
Especially Walker. Now, listen, now, if you watch this show, a lot of smart things get said, right? Mostly from me. But every once in a while, these guys will have some good points as well.
Accept that.
And we have said, we said over and over last season, Jabari Smith may be Auburn's best player, but Walker Kessler was the most important player on the team.
That was actually me. I said that, but go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Well, I will assign credit to Brian.
There you go.
Well, yeah. But we all, because we're smart people, agree with you and said yes. Right. That was a smart thing that Brian said. Real recognize real, and
okay.
And that was a talking point on this show all season. I'll give you your credit, man. I'll give you credit.
You are.
You said it.
Before you swipe some off the plate, let's go. Go ahead.
Hey, listen, sometimes it's a chicken wing just hanging out there. So, like, all I'm saying is if you look at the NBA result now, how true was that statement?
Mm-hmm.
He's rookie of the year already, if you ask me. He's going to be defensive NBA all-team. Like, come on, man. He is balling. And he's scoring, too.
Yeah.
Guys, he's scoring. And you take that off this team where he was consistent. There were no bum rebound nights for Walker Kessler.
Unless he was injured or something like that. But, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Blocks.
For sure.
Now, I want to read this stat line for Janai Broome. 4 of 10 from the field. Not terrible. He shot 40%. Listen. But here's why I'm bemoaning that 4 of 10 result. Janai Broome shot 3 threes in this game.
Yeah.
What?
Well.
Why is he shooting threes? Now, I don't know if you guys remember, I tweeted, I was like, hey, is this going to be a thing now with him pulling threes? Because I remember Walker Kessler tried to do it last season. And he would hit some at some point. But these threes aren't close. They're not. He hit one, but it's not a good shot.
Yeah.
Kentucky's giving that up all day, every day.
Yeah.
Shoot some more. We don't care about the random one you hit in every 3 or 4. Right? 1 offensive rebound. No defensive rebounds. How does that happen? Janai Broome didn't have 1 defensive rebound in this game. 1 assist, 0 steals, 0 blocks, 2 turnovers. 4 personal fouls. That was his stat line. He went to the free throw line a few times. He shot 5 free throws in this game.
3 or 5.
Man, Auburn can't survive that.
Walker Kessler was a phenomenal talent. I still find it hard that he was on the bench in North Carolina behind anybody.
That's crazy.
Like, that's crazy.
It's insane that they didn't throw. Was he NIL eligible when he left?
I don't think it was legal when he left.
I think it was just happening. I think it was just happening as he left. But let me tell you something. They should have thrown the whole bag at him. They thought they were fine. Keep in mind, they made it to the national championship game last year. So they were fine. They did great with the guy that was in front of him in North Carolina as center. Well, let's be clear. They were average, and then they went on a run in the tournament.
They did. And then
Hey, that's all it takes.
That's
got
Whatever it
they
takes.
were average, and then they
They
went
back
all
down
around
to earth
tournament.
now.
They
fully
went-
back.
It fell back down to earth.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, that was more about a hot streak that they got on a tournament than that
That's
team
true.
actually being good. I think if this team has to do it all over again, they're taking Walker Kessler all day, every single day, and twice on Sunday. This was a bad performance. I mean, we got to put some respect on Jalen Williams.
Mhm.
He was all they had. He was all Auburn had offensively. 3 of 7 from 3, 5 of 14 from the field. He was consistent. You know, he got 4 rebounds. He had a steal. He had a block. Only 1 turnover. But you know, with Wendell Green and Janai Brew being a combined 7 of 22 from the field, I don't know. Like, I just don't know when do they get hot, guys? We're still talking about the same issues with Wendell that we were last year.
Yeah.
This is the thing. I don't think they're going to get hot. Like that's it, man. People are in the conference
Have
with
they
you.
been hot at any point?
Right,
Really,
but I was there 6 weeks ago, and I was like, I don't know about this.
Yeah.
I don't know about this team.
My estimation of them getting better and improving was not based on any one player getting hot, because one thing I've been constant is like, I just don't think this team has those guys. Like, this team does not have elite scorers. We don't have just shot makers and bucket getters. So if we win, it was more about the rest of our schedule being coming down to earth a little bit. Tennessee has been down to earth. They beat Bama, but they've kind of picked it up. I think they've gotten out of there a little bit. But Kentucky had been in a bit of a slump. I mean, they beat a couple bad teams, but they also lost to some bad teams. Like, nobody has looked just perfect here. Bama having to scrape it out against South Carolina and Arkansas. Like, listen, nobody is just heads and tails better than anybody. And what I expected was we play the best game that we can play. And that's enough to beat these teams who are limping down the stretch here. But we don't seem to be able to return to a certain effort that we gave. And to be fair, when we played our best efforts, it's come down to, again, Texas A&M at Texas A&M. Refs took it out of our hands. We played an excellent game. Our shooting percentage was like 49% or so. Like, it was above 45%. But again, refs took that out of our hands. Tennessee, it comes down to a last shot. Of course, we should have got the last call against Tennessee, but we didn't have shot makers, so we're counting on somebody 5'10", 5'11" to be the person who makes a three-point shot for us. Like, we are in these positions where our best games get rewarded with losses, and it's tough to say, all right, guys, you did everything exactly like you should have, and you lost. Now come on, do it again. Like, mentally, like, that takes something out of a team, out of these players. It's a coach's job to get them back up for that.
No, Bruce Pearl said that they were tired. He said it after one press conference. He said, guys, we're tired. Our team is tired. And, you know, it's been it's taken a lot out of them. You know, these road games have been difficult.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't think he was making excuses. I think he was calling what it is.
That's
like,
true,
he was tired. But everybody's playing the same schedule you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you get in conference play, just be clear, everybody's playing the same schedule practically. So,
that's the reason that's a more relevant point. We are not as deep as we were last year. We had Wendell coming off the bench.
Sure.
Well, the regression of KD Johnson can't be understated, right?
I will disagree with you in this way. I think he's playing better in smaller minutes, because down the stretch last year, we had KD in the starting lineup because early he did a lot, but the longer he was on the floor for us as the season went on, he became less and less effective. I think we remember that for whatever SEC tournament game he played. So what they did was limit him, so he wouldn't make as many turnovers or as many foolhardy plays.
But that's regression, man. Like, he did not take a step. What they did was they adjusted his role because he did not progress.
Right.
They had to adjust his role because he did not take the next step as a player, and that's what I mean. And
also too, I think it has to be stated too. Again, when you lose Walker, you lose Jabari. The hope is that you're bringing in new talent that's able to contribute, maybe not to the level of what Walker and Jabari did, but they are contributing. Johan Trior did not take
two of the three freshmen that we needed to be contributors.
Injured.
Right.
He showed promise in Israel. Yeah. He's not here. We're not getting his production. We're not getting Johan's production. That hurts, given the guys who are returning.
Yeah, I mean, just like, listen, if they beat Bama, they make the tournament. That's my prediction. If they beat Bama on the road, they make the tournament. If they beat Tennessee at home, I think there's a chance that they look at a 20-win Auburn team and say, okay, let's slide them in at like 11.
Yeah.
This team is an 11 or a 12 seed to be. Like, they deserve a really hard game to start the tournament.
Well, 12 to 16 is kind of reserved for those smaller conference schools. So
sure,
11 is the best we could get.
Yeah,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's going to be brutal. Right, yeah. I mean, it would be cool to see them go in as a 12 seed and take down a 1. I think that would be amazing, right? Because it happens so little. If you don't know anything about this, only, I think now it's twice. Virginia was the first 1 seed to lose to a 16.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I think it's happened. I think it's happened again since.
That's great.
That might be
Wasn't
the
it
only
UMBC that beat them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The University of
Maryland something county. Something called
Baltic County. Yeah. Like
it was crazy. I was like, I don't even know who this team is.
I was like, yo, like they got
crazy.
way too many letters in their whole deal. But
it's karma, man. When you double dribble in a Final Four game, you end up losing to a team like that.
UMBC took them down, right? And so in Vegas, the straight up 1 versus 16, they won't even take that bet. You know why? Is because everybody would bet it every year. Everybody would go and put at least $10 down on this bet. And if it ever hit, the casinos would go broke.
Right.
Literally, they would have to shut the doors for like a month. Right? But the casinos would go broke on this bet. And, it is difficult. That is the gap between the haves and the have-nots in college basketball. Like, that is a good representation of what a 1 versus a 16 is, or a 2 versus a 15. Essentially, it's difficult. I remember Duke almost losing as a 2 seed to a 15 one year a while ago, and everybody in the casino had bet on whoever they were playing that year, and it came down to a final shot and they missed it, and you could just the collective groans of like 5,000 people at one time, and like this enclosed space was amazing to hear. But guys, the tournament is hard. I believe the NCAA tournament to be one of the hardest championships to win in sports.
Oh, for sure.
Because if not the hardest, because of the luck that it takes. Right, to overcome a bad seed. Right, and the advantage that 1 seeds have to make it to the Sweet 16 is incredible. It is an incredible advantage because you are playing the teams that barely squeaked in, and even then, man, let me tell you something. Them 1 seed, they can't coast in some of those games. They may, because in basketball, even though there's a big gap between the haves and the have-nots. Basketball is also one of those sports where, man, it's only 5 guys on the court, and if they get hot,
one or two, you got 1 or 2 guys who can really burn,
get hot
who get
they can definitely mess you up.
Yeah, for sure.
So you can't go out there and sleep, and like Auburn just has to. I mean, if they are, I'm worried. Because I think this team is NIT bound, but if they do win one of these last 2 and sneak in the tournament, on the bubble, essentially, they're as on the bubble as you can be. Yeah. Right. And they may make it just based on the good will that Bruce Pearl has built this team up over the last 9 years. Right. Think about it. Right. Like, there are schools that have been getting like Duke and North Carolina. If they're on the bubble, they're getting in. Right.
Right.
Is Auburn one of those teams that can be on the bubble and then still get into this thing is going to be a question that I have about, perception of what Bruce Pearl has made this program into. Might play as much into it. Now, with the NET rankings, they've tried to make that less subjective and more objective, right? To say, hey, with your net, Stephen Pearl came on our show and he talked about it. Listen, if you look at the net rankings, because there have been no blowouts, if they take margin of victory into account, Auburn has been hanging in there in the top 20-something in net. I'll be interested to see what this loss did to the net for Auburn. I think those are. I think they update those like nightly, so it might already be out. But
it may
chat. If you guys are checking, let us know where Auburn is in the net this week.
We'll see what Auburn does over this final week of the regular season. Hopefully we see some positive results against either Alabama or Tennessee 2 tough games. One's at home. We'll see what happens.
Mm.
Ben Bloodworth says, can we just pretend yesterday didn't happen? We just spent 35 minutes not doing that. Sorry, Ben. Thanks for hanging out with us. Derek Anderson says, Auburn basketball has so much talent. They don't know what to do with it. It really seems they aren't letting players develop or get set. They just rush shots. That's just my opinion.
Yeah,
I think that's the players, man. I think the same coaching that got a 2019 team that was looking iffy and turned them into an SEC champion, tournament champion, as well as a Final Four participant. This is pretty much the same staff. They know how to do this. I think we've got some players, and we were talking about this last football season. We had so much smoke for the offensive line, and then a new coach was like, hey, well, you know what? The coaching situation was what did it. Yeah, it was what did it. But, we still weren't great at some things. Cadillac took over coaching, but Andrews Carlson was still missing kicks. Sometimes the players' shortcomings and what they can do and cannot do is why you see a disparity you see between success and failure. And I think that this staff, especially guys who have been here for 4 years, like Flanagan and Jalen Williams, when we're talking about inconsistencies with fourth-year players' games under a coach who we have seen develop talent in 1 year, I saw Jabari Smith improve in 1 year. I saw Isaac Okoro improve is probably a big word for him because he looked pretty in NBA ready from the jump.
Oh no, B man, but you're
4
talking
years.
About,
you're talking about 4 years under the same coaching and development staff.
But you're talking, you're naming kids who are coming in, and they're like good. We know they're going to be lottery picks. We know they're gone after.
Right, they're good. Wait, so I don't think it was a guarantee that Okoro was going to be like a lottery pick. I think he was a very good prospect, but he had a more consistent outside shot than I think a lot of people thought he was going to have. He did some ball handling, and he was a defensive stopper. Now, maybe he was a defensive stopper coming out of high school, but he still has to turn into a consistent player in college. And that's something that a lot of college kids don't do. They can be high draft. Look at Johan Traore, right? Same development, same coaching staff, no major injuries. What's the difference?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just saying. I just feel like you're always going to get a miss on a 5-star every once in a while.
Yeah.
I guess my point is that when we're talking about 1 year development with these kids who come in already highly rated, I don't know how much I'm attributing the progression they make to coaching more so than you have a system that maybe just puts them in a good position to perform. But in terms of wins and losses this season, you have to attribute at least some percentage of what's happening to coaching and not players, because Bruce Pearl came out and he took responsibility for the end of the game defense on Vanderbilt.
Right. I'm not saying no side is completely to blame.
Yeah. So, but I'm saying when we're having the discussion about this year's team, I'm telling you, like, coaching bears some responsibility for the result. And I think the same way we expect players to evolve, we have to expect coaches to evolve as well too, and to think or to suggest that, hey man, the same coaching from 2019 should be good enough for 2023. I don't agree with that. Like, I just think, hey man, listen, you get different players, you've got different situations. The people that you're playing are different. As a coach, you have to adapt, and you have to be able to put the new players that you have in the best position for today's game, because it's not the same as it was in 2019, right? He caught lightning in a bottle in 2019. Credit to him for the progression that they made, and essentially taking what were not a lot of highly rated kids and turning them into highly rated kids, certainly, right? But, every coach in every sport, the better coaches evolve on how they do things, right? And I think that Bruce Pearl is going to use this season as an opportunity for himself to evolve as a coach and figure out how to do some things differently for the kids that are going to be coming in 2024. That's just my thought on it, right? I think going into next season, you'll see Bruce Pearl become a different coach, right? And I think maybe he's learning that he needs to make some adjustments this season, right? And mid-season is really hard to do, but you get your weight up in the offseason.
Yeah.
Get your weight up in the offseason. Sometimes it's really hard to do mid-season.
All right, guys, let's get on to the next. We got a few more before we get to the break. Steve Bradley says, I think they have had a bad year with so many foul calls from the refs. It makes them play a softer defense to keep from fouling out earlier in the game. This year, they couldn't breathe on a player without a foul.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. Listen, I've been very vocal about this. The officiating in Auburn games has been atrocious for the most part. And this is a hard question to ask a coach because they can't say shit about the refs. They can't, right? Not without getting fined.
Not at any level. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, but we can kind of say it for them. It's been bad and it has not been even, and it does change the way you play the game. So when you've got a player like Broom out there just worried about fouling out, and Stephen Pearl said this. He said, you have to trust the guy behind you to come in and do the job and play effectively. And you got to play like you got one foul, right? And not four.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in theory, I agree with him, but I don't think that Auburn has the depth. So
right.
the trust that he's talking about in the locker room, you got to say you trust, right? But from my seat, I can say, listen, no, I do not trust Cardwell to come in
and be as effective as Broom.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
depending on the night.
Right.
Some nights, yes. But if that scale, if that is the bars in the middle, I'm more toward 9 than
Broom brought up a completely different skill set too that Cartwheel has never shown. So it's difficult to trust him to do any of that.
Well, B said it during our kind of private chat during the game, like his hands have not really improved. Yeah, he's not catching balls he should be catching. Like
grab, it was a rebound. I saw he had his hands on it, and then he kind of fumbled it away. And it's like, man, it was really rough. I remember 2 years ago, before the Jabari and Kesley, I was like, oh, his hands are not good. And then last year, just limited minutes, so we didn't have an opportunity to bite us as much. But this year, we thought it's not that I don't want to say he didn't improve at all. It's just that I thought it was going to improve to the point where you can trust him on the floor for major minutes, but it hadn't ended up being there.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Get here. Cal Sweat says, I think we got to beat Tennessee and play in the SEC championship or play well in the SEC championship, if not win it outright. Talking about tournament chances here.
Tennessee at home is a good shot. So what we have to do is not get absolutely just mopped in Tuscaloosa. Like for real, because if the NET is taking margin into account, like we had gone the entire season without being blown out.
Sure. You can't get mopped.
We can't get mopped. Like we can't have a repeat of last night. So we need to do that, and we need to beat Tennessee. We need to
it's at home, and it's at home.
That's become a must win now.
Yeah, beat Tennessee, and I would say winning the last two. Auburn's a lot.
Get you in.
It's a lot, right? We're having this discussion despite what happens, but there's always the one last Hail Mary, which is the SEC tournament, which is the conference tournament. You win it and you're in. You get an automatic berth. You win and you're in. So I just don't think that you can.
A lot of games to play, though.
I don't think that you can lose these last two. And outside of winning the tournament, there's no run Auburn can go on in the SEC tournament that's going to make them tournament eligible.
For sure.
Texas A&M taught us that last year, right?
Right.
They got robbed.
SS Austin says, I feel like this is karma for saying we are a basketball school. Listen.
Who said that?
We're in everything.
Auburn will always be a football school, but we're in everything school.
We're in everything school.
Everything school, right? Yeah. So I don't know.
Maybe it's karma.
Hey, we still blue bloods? Are we still blue bloods, guys?
Blue bloods. Yes. 100%.
Okay. We're bluish.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey man, listen, there's a shift happening in college basketball right now.
We're blue-ish. Bingo says Bruce has all the resources to bring in guys, but it's partly on existing coaches and staff and guys not developing.
Yeah, man.
I don't think the resources have been the issue, though. I don't feel the resources are the issue.
Well, he's saying that they're not. He's saying the resources are there.
He has all the resources.
Right.
Yeah. Guys not developing. This year is kind of like, again, I think you can't develop an injured player, and sometimes you'll miss on a guy. And that's not to say that Trey or the lights doesn't come on for him later on down the road. But this year just wasn't it for him.
Yeah.
Wesley Hilson says, I love Jalen And Bruce told us he was building this team around Jalen, but Jalen is too quiet and inconsistent.
Yeah,
listen,
I don't think
yeah.
he's aggressive. He's not an aggressive player.
The last couple of weeks, he's been one of the most consistent, though.
Consistent, yeah.
Yeah, he has. I mean, listen, last night he was the leading scorer, and I
He's
thought
been playing well as of late, but he hasn't had that killer instinct about him that you would want to see in a guy you build a team around him. I don't think you got to have that, but there's a lot of. I'm not mad at the decision to pick Jalen because there are a lot of people you can say that about being an inconsistent.
Yeah, I just don't think the team around him is good enough for that to highlight. Like, he's not Jordan, right? Like, so he's not Jabari, but he has been playing well. And I think that if the team around him were playing better, we would be highlighting more of his country, how well he's been playing the last few weeks. Yeah. But we can't have that conversation because it's being drowned out in all the noise. But statistically, he's been Auburn's best player offensively for like 2 weeks, right? Sure. I mean, I don't know. Like I'm bullish on Jalen right now. I think he is shooting more confidently from three. Like just the look on his face, he looks locked in, man. He's not over celebrating.
Does he have that look in his eye?
Yes. As a matter of fact, he does.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jalen has been a bright spot, and I wouldn't be down on him. Not when the other two, Essential and Flanagan's 2 of 6, and Broom is 4 of 10 and shooting 3 threes, and Wendell is 3 of 12. I'm not down on the guy who's 5 of 14 and 3 of 7 from 3. Yeah, right.
For sure. Chris Sanders says we're net 36. We're 36 in the net.
I'm telling you, listen, that's a by net. That's a tournament team.
Yeah.
Right. So you get one of these last two, and you improve your chances greatly.
Yeah,
that will jump.
You can't go 0 for this. Go 0 for this week. Can't do that.
Definitely can't.
Lansdale's 99 says have to move away from small guards in the future.
That I think that might be something that Bruce. I don't know if he's gone for small guards specifically. I think he's gone for value, is what Bruce has done.
How tall is Trey?
Trey Donaldson, maybe 6'1", maybe.
He's not real small. He's not real small. I wouldn't consider
he's not small, but he's stocky. He's built like the football player that he is.
So here's where I'm at, right? Like the average basketball player is tall guys these days, right? Yeah. So like I'm 6'2", and I feel like I'm short compared to a lot of these kids these days. So I think like 6'3" point guard. I mean, this is becoming the norm, kind of in basketball. It's just like taller point guards are a thing, and guys are taller now, and they still maintain the handles and the quickness and the speed and flexibility of some of the shorter point guards. So I don't know, man. Like I think there's some truth to this. Like those kids are out there.
So your Jared Harpers are more of like your anomalies or outliers.
It's becoming that way.
I mean, even in Bryce Brown, like Bryce Brown was lights out shooter, but he was like 6'2", and as a 2 guard in the pros, and that's
3, yeah.
Let's be clear.
That's
2 more inches on Bryce Brown or Jared Harper, and they would be
NBA
like
All-Stars.
All-Stars. Yeah. So,
for sure.
I mean, and Chuma was the one that popped and went to the league because Chuma had the height.
6'4", right?
Chuma's like 6'6".
She was like 6'6".
Oh my goodness.
6'7", somewhere in there.
Yeah. So this is an issue. This is an issue when Wendell wants to operate and when he's the only person who can kind of create his own shot, but he's under 6 feet tall. So if your guard is 6'2" or taller, you get in there with their center and then, giving help defense to their guard who's already long. It's like, it's hard for him to be a true scorer, a dependable scorer, because he's at a disadvantage height wise. Him being the guy who has to get our shot, who has to make and create his own shot. That's where other people not making shots consistently kills us. Like let's not leave it in the hands of a 5'11" point guard to have to do our scoring. Like that's when Flanagan gets wide open threes and he's missing, you know what I'm saying? When Broom is down low and he's getting a little frustrated because they're playing him real tough down there and he's missing those boards against Sheboy. Like we need somebody else to get these buckets, because if it's going to have to be Wendell, it's probably not going to happen.
To his credit, man, I mean, he's going to the hole understanding that the team lacks scoring and trying to create contact.
Right.
But like again, but it's hard, man. Like he's making these circus shots sometimes, and sometimes he's getting the calls, but a lot of times he's not getting the calls when he goes hard to the hole, and like, you know, it's just difficult.
And
man.
usually it's 5-on-4 going the other way down because he's getting knocked down, and because of his size, he's going down.
Right. And and then what does that lead to?
After
After
it leads to points. It leads to points for the other team for sure. Cal Sweat says on a side note, I'm so happy to see Mike G back in the house and bringing the passion. Missing any of these Fab Four hurts. So excited for y'all's coverage of spring football. That is coming up shortly. We appreciate the comment. Thanks again.
Thanks, Kyle. I'm happy to be
watching with us. Guys, you are watching the Weekend Tailgate courtesy of Athletic Architects. You already know what to do. Share this content on social media. Smash the like button. Get the likes up, guys. Help us out. Listen, how many we need?
10. Hold on, wait. Oh, let me double check. we might have got
one. We got one since we pleaded.
Yeah. All right. Let me see here. Yeah, still need 10.
Dang. All right. 10 people. Do the Lord's work and subscribe. Help us out there, guys. Let's pause to acknowledge the sponsors of the War Report.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
Hey guys, listen, become a patron. Like we said, 10 subs short of 10,000, but you know, we're 1,000 subs short, patron short of just being able to talk to you guys 24/7 about Auburn football. So become a patron, help support our content. Also, you can gift the War Report, let somebody else get a taste. When we get into football content, Ike is going to be dropping a lot of film review stuff. That stuff is what we put behind our paywall. Now, 95% of our content is free for you guys to consume. But if you become a patron, there are some exclusivity things that we put out there for you guys. So give the gift of the War Report, help somebody else get a taste of what it's like. I failed to mention this at the top of the broadcast, but you guys are so used to it. You just put hashtag get your weight up in there anyway. Hashtag get your weight up for an AAU t-shirt. This is brought to you by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Our guy, Walt Taylor, out here supporting the War Report, longtime sponsor. So we appreciate Walt for this. AU, hashtag get your weight up. Make sure you spell that right. And we're going to pull very shortly.
Actually, we're going to do it in about 20-30 minutes.
Okay. All right. There you go. So Caesar is giving everybody a little bit more time to get in there. We went a little long on that first segment. Check us out on podcasts. We're on every single podcast platform, bringing you guys podcast exclusive content. So Mike Mack and Memes, the A-Man Corner podcast, which is one of my favorite with Ike, our guy Paul Mahari. They bring in some different perspectives from other schools within the SEC. You definitely do not want to miss that content. So subscribe, help support us on podcasts, guys. This is a growing segment of our business that we are really excited about, is a podcast portion. So audio only. It's a little bit more car friendly content if you want to be hands free in the car, but listen to the War Report. YouTube is not always the best way to watch it. So subscribe on podcasts. Help us grow there as well.
Thank you, Mike G, for that. I'm going to grab a few more comments. My World of Sports says Chuma is 6'8", actually.
So yeah.
Oh, wow.
Height.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris Sanders comes back and says LeBaron Philon, who the recent commit, is 6'4".
There we go.
Okay, there you go. We're getting taller.
Yeah. So
Almost there.
Who's this? I guess that is the Bruce Pearl point guard prototype. I'm assuming.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I think Bruce is seeing what he needs to do, and again, this is him actually making good on guys he's going after. We got to remember he has swung and missed on targets in the past who were bucket getters, right? Out of the G League or whatever the case may be. He's going after other guys as well. So again, as to B's point, it's been a few years of us missing on those guys has gotten us where we are here today.
Yeah.
Guys, let's talk football. Spring football starts tomorrow. It's here. It is here. I wanted to talk about Hugh Freeze. Again, we have a coaching staff full of guys who has experience with developing QBs. I want to talk a few scenarios with you guys just to get your thoughts on how you think this will end up shaking out. I was doing some research and I noticed that in year one, at Hugh Freeze's past 3 stops, that includes Liberty, Ole Miss, and Arkansas State, quarterback production improved to some degree. They were either throwing for more yards, the QB wasn't turning the ball over as much, or just we saw a QB take a step forward.
Mm-hmm.
In 2 of those schools, Arkansas and Liberty, Hugh Freeze managed to achieve that with a QB already on campus. The exception being Ole Miss when he brought in Bo Wallace.
Gotcha.
Right.
I think Randall Mackey was the QB at Ole Miss prior to Bo Wallace. He was still on campus when Bo Wallace was there. So Hugh Freeze brought a QB in to be his guy. Yeah. That's the exception. My personal opinion is, regardless of what shakes out this spring, I think Hugh Freeze goes to the portal regardless for a QB. The only question is, for what reason? I think that's the difference. Reason being, gentlemen, is whoever is QB3 of the QBs who are going in the spring, that is Robbie Ashford, Holden Garner, TJ Finley, whoever is QB3, and I don't think Ashford will be QB3, but whoever is QB3, I don't see them staying on the roster. I see them hitting the portal, which means I think Hugh Freeze actually gets another body at least for that. You at least would leave with scenario 1 feeling better about your guys. Hugh Freeze doesn't know. He hasn't coached them up. He doesn't know who's a leader. But an ideal scenario is that your guy is already on campus. The second scenario is you leave spring and Hugh Freeze is like, I need to go get a guy to be my leader in my QB. Right?
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
He hasn't had to do that in 2 of his 3 stops. So my question for you guys is, our QB for 2024 already on campus, or are we looking for a stud in the summer?
Yeah. Okay. All right. So loaded question. And this is much debated, right, thing. So on the front end of this, again, we have to talk about it because it's happening. Listen, TJ Finley is going to be on the spring roster. He's going through the spring, man. He's in the weight room with this team. I think a lot of people had just kind of written him off. I'm not sure those people are wrong because I think a lot is in the air for this young man. But he is at least going through the somewhat of the spring with this team. Now, can't be understated. You can decide that you're transferring mid-spring. Demetrius Davis did it, right? Like he went through a few practices. He was like, this ain't for me, right? And decided he was leaving. So, TJ Finley has used up his freebie transfer, but so has Robbie Ashford. So I just think I'll be interested to see how Hugh Freeze treats it because he has not coached any of these guys. So as far as he's concerned, you've got 2 guys on your roster who have started games in the SEC, and Robbie Ashford and TJ Finley. But then you got Holden Garner, who I hope doesn't get lost in the conversation. I don't want to see him taking 3rd string reps this spring.
He worries me the most, Mike. I'll be honest with you. He worries me the most just because there's not much film on him.
Well, right. But again, you can't, if he is to progress, I just don't think, I think it made sense that he took third string reps last year.
Sure.
But this year, I want to see him get a chance to really show what he's got in meaningful snaps this spring. Now, here's what happens. Spring practice starts, and everybody's like in one is kind of like anybody who's got a shot is on the same footing. And then they start to narrow that down really quickly. So guys can jump ahead or fall behind really quickly in a few practices. That is what it's like competing in the spring. You have a narrow window. So if you go out there, one bad practice can put you behind the 8 ball. It is a true competition. And, and looking at what Hugh Freeze has done with his first year with quarterbacks, Caesar, you mentioned that there's been some kind of improvement one year over another when he's come into a program. So his first year as a head coach was in 2011 at Arkansas State. And in that first year as a team, they went 10-3, 8-0 in the Sun.
Actually, Hugh Freeze first joined Arkansas State as offensive coordinator in 2010.
Right. Yeah, I'm not counting that though.
Okay.
I'm only going as head coach. Right. He went 10-3, 8-0. His quarterback was a guy named Ryan Alpin. Some of you might remember that name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That season, he was 63.9%. So we'll just call it 64% passing for 3,588 yards. That is production Auburn will take next season.
Yeah.
If any one of these quarterbacks does that, I think Auburn's having a decent season. They're having an 8-win season, if you ask me. Now, Arkansas State played 2 Power 5 teams that year in Illinois and Virginia Tech. They lost both of those games. Then he goes to Ole Miss, right? First year, 7-6, 3-5 in the SEC. And he had a quarterback, again, a name you guys might remember, Bo Wallace. Good old Bo went
almost 3,000.
Almost 3,000. 63%, 63.9. So we'll just call it 64% passing.
Bit of a turnover machine, but
yeah. Numbers, though, that you would take again over what we produced last year.
You had to respect their passing game in year one of the Hugh Freeze era.
Mm-hmm. So, it was interesting. Now, he also had 390 yards rushing, on 143 attempts on the ground. But, and I think if Robbie Ashford's the quarterback, 500 would be the floor for rushing for him in the season. And, we'll see where it goes from there. But 7-6, 3-5 in the SEC. So I think an acceptable number for Hugh Freeze in year one. I think all those metrics are there. Now, Liberty. Liberty, you had a guy named Stephen Calvert.
Yeah.
Calvert was only 54% passing, but he still threw for 3,068 yards on 439 attempts. Now, his predecessors, like let's say Alpin had 476 attempps. So he actually threw the ball a little less than Alpin did.
Give me those numbers again, Mike.
So Calvert was 54% passing for 3,068 yards.
Actually, what I'm looking at here, because I think we may be looking at the same thing. Hugh Freeze wasn't the head coach that year.
2019?
2018.
I'm looking at 2019.
The stats I'm seeing, we got to compare notes, but his percentage was 57%.
This is Calvert?
Yeah, Stephen Calvert. It actually improved by 3% in 2019, and he threw less interceptions under Hugh Freeze. He threw 28 touchdowns, 7 interceptions.
What was Freeze's first year at Liberty?
2019.
2019, right. Yes, I only pulled the 2019 numbers.
Okay.
I only pulled the 2019 numbers.
I'm looking at 2018, and what you quoted is what I'm seeing under 2018.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah,
Okay.
I maybe we got the line before.
Okay.
But I mean, pretty close. The
numbers look better in 2019 is my point.
Yeah. It was pretty close. And he was, he touted himself as a quarterback guru.
He did.
In year one, I develop quarterbacks quickly and I turn programs around quickly. These are his words, not mine. So in terms of holding his feet to the fire, I think that these numbers, right, essentially something around 3,000 yard passing is what we can expect because that's what he's produced, right? I think, again, mid 60s in terms of completion percentage is something that we should be able to expect. Now Calvert was sub 60, right? But they still had, around 3,000 yards passing. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can do. Now in 2019, Liberty played 4 Power 5 opponents. They lost all of those games. They only won. And they're technically an independent, I guess.
Yeah, they are.
They're an independent, so there's no real conference record to look at. But it's gonna be interesting to see. And so the question about whether or not the quarterback is already on campus or not, I think based on what he's been able to do with the existing quarterbacks at his previous stops, I don't think it matters. I think that he's going to either do it with one of the guys he has, or he's going to get a guy who can do it. But we should be able to expect that he's going to do it regardless. His system seems to be pretty consistent in terms of year one at a program, producing, a quarterback that is at least around 60% completion percentage and 3,000 yards passing through the air. All improvements for Auburn. Because Bo spent most of his Auburn career sub 60. You know what I mean? And whenever Auburn has been able to get a quarterback that has been north of 60% completion percentage, they've done all right.
Yeah.
They've done all right, given, the running game is what it traditionally has been. And again, which is something that we're going to find out under Hugh Freeze, like what is the running game going to look like? Because that's one of the more solid rooms on this position groups on this team. Does he lean on that a little bit more than he has in the past? Because this may be a little bit different of a situation than he's walked into previously. I think this is the highest pressure situation that he's walked into as a head coach.
Agreed.
Undoubtedly.
Agreed.
Taking over Ole Miss and taking over Auburn in year one are not the same things. Right. So we'll see. We'll see what that pressure and what this situation, does he just do what he's always done and it's just business as usual in year one? Or does he try to overcompensate a little bit because of what this situation is compared to his previous situations? You're not walking into Liberty with any pressure, right? You're not taking the Arkansas State job and being like, oh, man, if I don't win 8 games, I'm out of here.
Yeah, but at the same time, he already knew what Auburn was. He's been in the conference.
True.
I don't think this was he's not a fish out of water like Brian Harsin was.
But it's not comparable to Ole Miss, though. This job is not comparable to Ole Miss.
The job, I think he has a better understanding of the job. Not only this, Auburn is a different job than Ole Miss. We know that, and we've talked about that in depth. This is Hugh Freeze's biggest opportunity, especially after what he lost with his poor decision-making. This is his one. Like, this can be a top 10 college football job if you do it right. He knows that. Like, that more than anything, the pressure. I don't think the pressure is about, is the fan base going to be mad if we only win 7? He talked about when we had our building report with him. He was like, I got to get in there and coach him and see what we got. And then I got to go. We're going to do what we can year one and then recruit really well. And then maybe that next year I'll start trying to, maybe we can get our expectations up. But he's like, right now, I'm just trying to build it. I'm trying to build that locker room. And he focused on locker room before some other things, recruiting. In locker room. So obviously he has some things that he's focused on. And he said all he's been doing is recruiting. He hasn't even coached guys yet. I don't think the pressure that he feels, I think, is more about building a foundation where the team functions how he wants it to function. And then he'll worry about not like he's not worried about success, but I think that pressure is internal. And that's what the point I'm trying to get to. The pressure Hugh Freeze has to feel is for himself. Because there's a lot to be vindicated for him personally and professionally if he does this correctly.
Oh, yeah, let him go out there and have a mediocre spring, though, Brian. Like,
what's a mediocre spring?
He hadn't felt any pressure yet until you go out there and the offense and you don't have a quarterback, right? When Robbie Ashford goes out there and he looks.
But again, that's still null and void if he goes out and gets based on his track record and what he's done. If he goes out and finds someone,
but then you have even less time to work with that guy before fall. I'm telling you, man, this pressure pipe that is Auburn, he hasn't felt it yet. He hasn't. And what I'm saying is, it's not comparable to when you walk into Ole Miss and they're thinking you're more likely to get an automatic 3 years there to figure it out. But in year one, if you start off and it looks a little bit behind what people think, because you don't have pressure because everybody has realistic expectations. What he's trying to do is he's trying to set the baseline for everybody to say, hey, we should have realistic expectations, right?
Right.
Great line, Hugh, but that's not what people are going to do, right? And based on what you put out on the field, based on what you said about being a quarterback guru and turning programs around quickly.
So it does matter then what he does in terms of developing a QB on the roster currently or having to go out in the portal.
100%, man.
Okay.
Because you can't turn a program. You can't say I turn things around quickly.
You said it didn't matter before, though.
Say what?
You said it didn't matter based on what
answer.
Your answer initially was because of Hugh's track record, it doesn't matter which one he does because his past indicates he'll
do that, right?
Do regardless,
right. But my point is, if he doesn't go out and do that
in spring,
yeah, right, it's going to be.
That's right. How's that measurement in spring though?
Because again, you're shortening your timeline, right? Like you have a guy. If you don't have a guy that looks capable in the spring, the pressure starts to mount for the fall.
Sure.
And then if you can't go out and get that guy in the portal, like what is it? I'm just
but that's why I wouldn't say it doesn't matter, because if anything, ideally for me, the best scenario is that Robbie, Holden, or even most people don't think it'll happen, but maybe even TJ, someone who's currently at Auburn now, who's winter workouts, going through spring, they're at least leaving spring knowing I have at least one guy that can lead or run this offense.
Okay, yeah, okay. So
that's an ideal scenario because you don't have to depend on someone entering the portal.
Right. Maybe I misspoke, right? So what I'm saying is that in year one, he has a track record of doing X. We've seen it in the numbers.
Okay.
Right? And so if the guy isn't on the roster, he still has to find a way to produce those numbers regardless. He has to. It's not going to be an excuse that he can use to say that this guy isn't on the roster or we couldn't find a guy in the portal. He's got to go out. I don't think he would,
though. Do you think Hugh Freeze would say, "Oh, well, the reason I didn't get to 64%"?
Yeah, of course, Hugh Freeze is not. My point is that the pressure pipe that starts to build is building no matter what. But if one of these guys doesn't look capable during the spring, it's definitely going to build a lot faster on him. It 100% is going to build a lot faster on him. So when I say it doesn't matter, I'm just saying it doesn't matter because he's got to get it done regardless.
Sure.
He's got to get it done regardless.
Okay.
So that's what I mean by it doesn't matter. If the guy is here, great. If he's not, you still got to find a way to produce these type numbers, which would be an improvement over what Auburn did last year. I don't think that he can. I don't think he has the leeway to move backwards in year one. But that's his pressure. That's the pressure that he put on himself.
I think it's impossible to move backwards given what we've seen.
Yeah,
I
don't.
But it always get worse, right? It might be hard, but it can always get worse.
We lost by like 30 to Penn State at home. We got embarrassed at Arkansas at home.
Caddy said, "Screw passing."
We're talking about the QB. We're talking about the QB position, though. We're talking about the QB position. So, I'm not talking about wins and law. I'm talking about the QB position. No, but it can get worse. It can get worse, guys. It can get worse. It can get worse. Now, do I expect that from him? No. I think it would be hard for him to do worse.
Sure.
But again, in this game that is college football, if you are not moving forward, you're moving backwards. Because everybody else around you is getting better. Right? So you can't count on people around you to stand still. That's from a coaching perspective. That's from a player perspective.
But do you think do you think that because you have a lot of people in our fan base who actually feel that we're going to be at that point anyway where we're needing to go into the portal? Obviously, there will be pressure to find someone, but do you think there's really going to be that much panic given that there are people in our fan base? It's a foregone conclusion he's going to the portal.
And so that's what I was going to get to.
TJ?
because
No,
you mean
Hugh Freeze,
Hugh Freeze.
the coaching staff. Like
Right, yeah.
it's a foregone conclusion. Our Auburn's next QB for some fans is in the portal or will
Right.
be in the portal.
right,
Yeah,
and
But
that,
will there be that much
There we go.
panic if during spring we realize, oh shoot, we got to go to the portal?
Right.
So-
Yeah, yes and no. Right. To answer
Okay.
your question, yes or no. Because here's the deal. Number one, you need a QB, right? But you need more than one QB. You need more than one QB. You need a room of QBs that can get the job done, because this is the SEC. Look at how many teams in the SEC went to QB2 last year for meaningful playing time. It was like half the league. Even Alabama had to sit Bryce Young, and they had to have their dude come in and win a game.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I do think, regardless of whether you go to the portal or not, the development of the QBs that you have on campus is going to be important. It is. Whoever that guy is, at least one of them has to make some progress and show some promise, because you still have to think about the future as well and how these guys project. That's all I'm saying, right? Like, again, the better teams in this conference don't just have one guy that can do the job.
Agreed.
So we don't
Agreed.
leave, and we don't leave spring, because you can leave spring with, I'm using Robbie as example by default, but this is not me saying I think, this or that, right? Let's say Robbie shows improvement this spring and he looks like he's going to project to be a better quarterback. At the end of the day, you still gotta go out and at least try to get somebody who can compete with him in the portal post spring. That guy may or may not be there. And if you don't get that guy, guess what, man? Whoever's behind Robbie has to take that step as well, too.
All right.
They got to move. They just have to move this thing forward.
And it's like I'm saying, I think he's going to the portal regardless, just because you need, to your point, Mike, you need numbers. 2022 taught Hugh Freeze, I need more than 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Right?
Not like he didn't already know that. He beat an SEC opponent at their place that we got beaten by double digits by, with a third-string quarterback from a talent pool at Liberty that already couldn't compare to the talent pool that Auburn pulls from. He did better with QBs last year than we did last year. I don't think there is from the case that you've already made, Mike, with what does he do with the QBs when he gets there? If a guy's there, he's going to improve by a certain number of percentage points, this many yards, somewhere between low 60s, mid 60s, and close to, if not over, 3,000 yards, right? He's done that with whether they were running guys or passing guys, whether they were there or he just brought them in. He's done that. It's fair to say, hey, our QB should look like this is a fair expectation based on what you've done in your career. But I don't know how you get that out of spring ball. Spring ball is almost experimental when it comes to what these coaches, because they're learning about these kids on the fly. Like he said repeatedly, I don't know. He said, yeah, I've seen some throws from both of them. And I've also seen some throws. I'm like, I don't know. He has no idea what he's going to get once he puts his coaching and sets his standard for play for these QBs. But to that point, I don't think it matters what they do this spring. I think he already knows what he wants. I think he already knows if he wants to go to the portal or not for another guy. And I think he probably has an idea of who it is, because all these coaches have to stay ahead. You have to be eyeballing QB competitions at schools across the country and say, all right, well, this guy could lose that job. What do we think of him coming out of high school? Let's go look at some tape. All of that is already in the pressure cooker right now. And I don't think it has anything to do with whether or not Robbie or Holden looks fantastic coming out of the spring. If they look fantastic, cool. Now let's get another one.
That's completely opposite of what he said, though, right? He was on record as saying that, you know what, because I was the one who asked him the question about whether you go to what are you going to do in the portal with the QB? And he said it depends on what these guys do during the spring.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure he said that, but I don't believe that's it. I think he's going to get another guy regardless. JG
I'm taking him at his word. He said, once I've coached these guys during the spring, because I haven't got a chance to coach these guys, it will affect how aggressively we go after a guy in the portal. And I don't have any reason to doubt what he said about it. It sounds like
if you're a head coach, why would you say, hey, no matter what these guys do, because these guys are sitting, everything you say in media they can see it, right? Yeah, man, listen, they might be great, they might not. I'm going to get some more dues. Man, these players don't want to hear that. So you say what you should say, which is, we're going to let them battle it out. We're going to see what they can do. But I'm always, just like we've heard from Chris Todd on up, they're always trying to find the better player. Your players need to believe that what they do is going to determine how that room shakes out. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to get another guy. Why would it mean that?
But it's totally rational to just say, hey, listen, we're always trying to get better. We're always trying to get better. I don't think that Saban is playing word games with his players. He's just going out and he's getting the best players. If you're going to be a good coach in this league, right, your players have to be able to hear they're going out to get another guy. I don't think Hugh Freeze is worried about that. I think that he knows that he needs the best players. And if you're going to be a top player in this league, you're not going to be deterred by your coach saying, I'm going out to get somebody who's better. You're just going to up your game, and then he's going to play the best guy. That's it. Yeah, I don't think, and if that is the mindset of our players, we're in trouble.
He's already said he sees the need for maturity in that room. Well, so, I mean, it might be the mindset of some of these players.
Well,
but that's why I believe what he said. He started to set expectations for these QBs and things that he said, right?
Yeah.
Again, I asked the question directly. What is an SEC QB? And when you listen to these guys, they tell you what's important. He said, not a guy that shows up on a list. Coach, what's a list? I don't know what that means.
Because a list can be a good thing, but
you
freeze, not so much.
Right. Getting parking tickets, doing stuff because he had mentioned that he has not had a chance to sit down with a lot of these guys just yet. Right. And so in his direct answer, he said, listen, I'm watching more what they do than what they tell me.
Mm-hmm.
So he's watching how they behave. Yeah. And at this point, with him being out on the road and not being in the building a whole lot when the question was asked, right? He's saying, if you show up on a list to my desk around this time of year, it's usually not a good thing.
Yeah.
What else did he say? He said, I'm not looking for a guy who melts down, I'm paraphrasing, at every bad thing that happens. So to Brian's point, yes, he has expectations for what he thinks that QB is going to be. Now, these guys have a chance to either reinforce what things he may already think about them or change that narrative during the spring. That's why I think what happens this spring matters a lot.
Of course it matters. Of course. Listen, to be fair with you, I think if either Holden Garner, Robbie Ashford, or both, and I know people saying don't count TJ out, but I think we had a question about TJ, and it may
I got it here.
With locker room support and things like that may play more of a factor. But if one or both of those guys look outstanding in the spring, he still goes to get another dude. He just had to go to his fourth quarterback in one football season.
I don't think
why would you not?
I don't think we go into the summer with those three quarterbacks anyway.
Right. But my point is that the urgency with which you go to the portal might be a little different depending on you may not feel the need to reach as much as you would.
I'm with you.
Right. If these guys step up this spring. And I think that's what he was trying to say when he said, listen, what these guys depends on what we see this spring.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was saying. Why you're going into the portal is a completely different
story. Because if you're going for depth, or if you're still looking for your starter, and those guys are going to set that expectation this spring with how they do.
Like Wesley's comment, I appreciate you hanging out. Wesley says maybe McCall can graduate by May. I'm panicking if that's what we're hoping on, because you're counting on things that are out of Auburn's control to pan out for us.
Right.
All right. Hold on, guys.
For a kid that might not even be a lot.
He might not even be in the portal.
The best passing quarterback we had before Jared Stidham knocked some records down in 2017 was Chris Todd. When did he come in?
He was already in.
When did he come in for the season? He played 2009, but when did Chris Todd get on campus?
He was on campus in 2008.
Yeah, he played that first. He played under Silverfield's last
year.
That's
right. Now, not that I'm saying the wrong year. I'm sorry. 2008 is when he got on campus, but when did he actually? He won the job in how long?
He didn't go through spring, and he won it in what?
No, he got hurt in the off. Essentially, he didn't
go through spring.
They didn't go through spring, and then he won it in fall of 2009.
Very quickly, So the same thing with I think Nick Marshall. Different athlete, different system, but it didn't take him long to be like, okay, you're the dude. I see you. You're the dude instantly. Is a dude going to be in the portal? Because if a dude is in the portal, I'm less concerned. Now, what are the chances of a dude being in the portal? I don't know, man.
Yeah. So this is an interesting conversation about the chances of a dude being in the portal, because I think most of the dudes are trying to go through spring with their team.
Right.
Right. And if you're getting into the portal after spring, it's probably because
Are you a dude?
You lost the job.
You're probably not a dude.
Yeah. Like or somebody didn't think you were a dude.
Or you're at a school that has a completely new coach, new system, and you no longer fit. But in that case, you may have already left the portal the first time. You entered the portal during the first wave when this new coach came in.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, if there's after
that's an
spring,
exception.
After spring, I have more questions about those guys. Now there's exceptions to every rule. Like you said with McCall, he might be a dude, but there's this grade thing, and it's like it's not non-football reasons. Yeah, we're talking about non-football reasons that he might be a dude post-spring in the portal, right? And so,
that's possible.
Yeah, it depends on it highly dependent on the situation, but we're just talking about like normal why guys jump into the portal after spring. Mostly it's because
you're younger. You're younger.
Yeah, they've assessed their situation where they're at, and they're saying, "No, I'm gonna win the job here," or "I no longer fit," or "There's something going on." Usually performance related, where somebody has already decided that you are not a dude for their team.
Right. And
now,
you could be a dude for a different team.
You could be a dude for a different team. So like I like the guys, I would favor the guys who got into spring with their team.
Right.
Now we missed that. We missed that in the first, and this is why I asked the question about going after a guy in the second portal period, because to me that's a different crop of guys for the most part by percentages. Doesn't mean there's not a dude out there. Right. But there are a lot of non-dudes in the second portal period than there are in the first portal period. So
I love these non-dude designations.
Yeah, right.
If you know, you know.
Ike's watching. I see Ike's watching. We need a dude, non-dude graphic, right? Maybe that'll be the
hilarious.
Drop. That'll be the drop tomorrow. Is dude or non-dude, right? I would just go through a radar.
He's non-dude. He's definitely non-dude.
FCC dude or non-dude, right? So again, I'm just taking him at his word right now when he says, I'm going to be watching what these guys do this spring, and that will have an effect on how we look at the portal post-spring. Are you looking at it with desperation, or are you looking at it with, hey, we need depth, and we need a guy who can compete, and we're open to that guy coming in and even taking the job from the guy who won the spring?
For sure.
However, it's a different proposition when you feel good about whoever is in the league coming out of spring than if you feel like you got nobody. So
and again, he can turn water into wine coming out of that situation. It's happened before, but ideally you want it to be the former scenario. You feel good about who's already here.
For sure, Caesar. Regardless, I think the expectation from a fan standpoint should be around 3,000 yards passing. And low to mid 60s in terms of completion percentage.
I think the fan expectation should be on wins losses, because that's what's most important. If we had somebody 100%. Throw for 3,000 and 65%, and we lost,
here's what I want you two to do. I want you two to debate this out on a morning drop. Y'all take this conversation and take this to a morning drop and debate it.
Yeah. I don't think wins losses are not enough, because traditionally when Auburn has been in their better years, it's been about getting the quarterback play.
Wins losses is not enough. Wins are the entire reason we're playing. What are you talking about?
But that has not been Auburn's
Hey guys,
Auburn has gotten a quarterback. The wins losses debate
Mike
has been much different.
Hey Mike,
Jarrett Stidham, Cam Newton, Nick Marshall, Jason Campbell. Come on, man, got to find a quarterback.
Michael, okay. Let's take this to a morning drop. You two duke it out there. That's 30 minutes we don't have right now.
All right, Tuesday is on.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Y'all advertise that on Twitter.
Or Rock'em Sock'em.
Yeah.
Jaquan Grant says, fellas, how y'all feel to hear about TJ Finley is not putting in effort in workouts and how teams not trusting him? Now, Mike G, did you hear this? Were you talking about this with Blackerby? Did this come up?
Yeah, there was
another one, and I think it's hearsay more so.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts on this?
I sidestepped this one because highly speculative in my book. And something that honestly, if I were hearing it, I don't know what I would. Yeah, it just depends. Until it's all said and done, and the guys either here or gone. Like I just don't know that I would touch this one because this can be highly subjective, right? About effort, when it comes to this. So I'm not saying it's true or it's not. I'm just saying this is something I don't like to touch. These guys, man, football is hard, man. And some guys go out there and they are putting in the effort and they're working as hard as they can. I believe that all these guys are working hard, in their mind. I believe that TJ Finley believes that he's putting in the effort. Now, what he thinks is putting in the effort and what the guy next to him thinks can be two totally different things. Ultimately, what you lean on is you lean on what the coaches think in terms of whether he's putting in the effort. And I think that depth chart will show a lot of that, right? So if we come out of spring and he went through the whole spring and Holden Garner is 2 and Rob, or vice versa, or 1, and Robbie is 1 or 2 and you are 3, then there might be some credence to this statement, especially for a guy who's been in college football for quite some time now. This would be his 3rd or 4th year. When in 2020 was his freshman year, I believe. 2021, 2022. This is year 4. Right? Is that good math?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually,
This would be year 4. This would be year 4. Right? So if you are essentially falling behind year 2 and year 3 guys, I would have some questions about why. Now, we don't always get those answers. However, this is something that, I just think, the team respects people who work hard. Jarquez Hunter, right? Like, all we hear about him is he's a workout warrior, just a complete beast. He's out there bench pressing the world or squatting the world. Like, he squats like 650 pounds or something like that. You don't get to that point without being a hard worker. You don't accidentally one day just wake up and squat 650.
No, it smashes you when you do that.
Right. Yeah, you break something when you attempt that, and I think that the process, if you've ever in college, B and I used to I don't know if you remember, we used to go down to the ACK and work out together. Right, and on the bench press we would put 185 pounds on the bar and essentially see how many times we could rep out 185 pounds and just build on that every workout. Was kind of a deal. So, like set 1, it was like, oh man, I repped out like 16 reps. And then set 2, you're trying to build your stamina to see you could get through more reps on set 2. And like, if you've ever gone through this process, you understand like the consistency and the dedication that it takes to get 1 rep better every week or every other day or every few days, and it is something that your teammates see and your guys next to you see. So if you are not improving, the guys who are working out with you usually understand whether it's effort or if it's something else. The coaches will see that as well too. And, you just got to go out here, man. And you cannot afford to give, even 90% effort most days, because I'm telling you, there are guys out there who want it and they're giving 200% every day because they understand there might be a talent gap between them and the next guy. And for what I lack in talent, I'm going to make up for an effort if I want to see the field. And then you got those guys who got both, right? They have all the talent, but the legendary practice and workout habits. And the best athletes, we hear about those routines. LeBron spends $3 million a year on fitness and nutrition on his body, they said. Right. And if you would hear the stories about him and Ray Allen, like biking to the arena, miles to the arena for practice. Not a game, practice.
not a game. Not a game.
Practice. Right. So, this narrative that, in this comment, the reason why I think it can be relevant is that it's hard to be great without great habits. And I think that when you see guys like, was it Jamarcus Russell? Was that his name?
Yes.
who could throw a football
Goodness
300
gracious.
yards,
He could spin that thing, bro.
but was lazy as hell
Yeah.
from what we understood and had bad habits. You end up a bust as a number 1 pick, man. Coming out, was he number 1 overall?
Yeah.
He was number 1 overall, man, and one of the greatest busts in NFL history.
Yeah.
Based on what was invested, right? So, again, I don't know what's true or not true about that. All I will say is that if you want to be great, right, you are great every minute, every second, and every hour of every day. And when you are, the people around you recognize that. They see that. They see the habits. They see you like you're the guy who's not out partying, before a big practice or before a big game. You're the guy who's first to practice, first to the weight room, first to everything. So Hugh Freeze has to help create a culture where we're not asking this question about any player that's on this roster. Now, he just inherited these guys, so he's got what he's got to, right? But if he is putting in a culture, I'm telling you, this thing about whether a guy is putting in the effort or not will go away real quick because those guys won't make it.
Right.
That's facts.
They won't make it. So, I hope that's where we're going.
Well said. Well said. Let me grab another comment. Got a few of these. We'll get through these, do our drawing, and we'll wrap it up. Joe Kyle says over 60% and referring to completion percentage because of scheme or improved QB play.
Can it be both, Joe?
Yeah, but it can absolutely be scheme too.
Yeah,
scheme does a lot for QBs with limitations. It does.
I think
those like short passes that like improve a percentage, but again, may not actually help you. You know what I mean? Win.
Sure. But listen, you got guys on this staff who are great at scheme.
Mm-hmm.
You got guys on this staff who are good at QB play. I think it can be both under this coaching staff.
Yeah, we've got everything covered. If you say Hugh Freeze is a scheme guy, if Philip Montgomery
Ken Austin is a QB guy, developer.
Listen, QB, whether it's scheme of the offense or fundamentals of the QB position, we've got it covered. So hopefully, it is both.
Yeah. No Meter Martin says, appreciate the super sticker there. Appreciate you. Ike says, when you say quickly, we didn't ask him what the timetable was. In retrospect, we should have, because AU fast may not be Hugh fast.
Y'all
so when you
Auburn
say turn it around,
that used to be Gus's thing.
Right.
Auburn fast. That's how quick we're gonna get off the field because we can't convert on third down. We're gonna get off the field, Auburn fast.
I think that he understands by year 2 they need to be showing, significant improvement over. You need to improve every year. I think that is the point. So when we say quickly, we mean, you know what? This team went 5-7 last year with a mess of coaching over the first few games.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, by year 2, improving by 3 wins.
You don't need to be seeing 2 QBs throughout the game halfway through year 1. And we should be able to throw a forward pass that teams respect by the end of year 1.
Yeah. You need to make a bowl game next year.
Yeah.
That's how you need to make a bowl game. I think there is you're looking for improvement that may not always translate to a bunch more wins in year 1. But and I don't know that we've defined this, that anybody's defined this, or Hugh has even defined this, but I think it's a general understanding that there is a 2-year timetable for showing where there's no question about where this program is headed.
Right.
We've got things moving the right direction offensively. And that's why we come back to the quarterback position is because there are 2 position groups on this team that have the most question marks, and it's the QB room and it's the linebackers. So given that Auburn has, I mean, I don't know. I feel like just in terms of perception,
sure.
Yeah, they brought in so many guys. Suddenly, everybody just thinks the O-line is.
But you still got to come together.
Right. I have questions about the O-line, so I'm not saying I don't. Right, but I just think right now people are looking at those 2 position groups as the weakest that need to improve the most. And given how Auburn has struggled to score points, and QB play has been so poor, over the last, it's been at the center of whether Auburn wins games or not. So again, just to correct something that was said earlier, to make sure we're clear on something you said earlier, it's not that wins and losses don't matter. I think, in my opinion, that's highly dependent on QB play moving forward, particularly in a league where there are so many dynamic QBs. Right. And if you don't, then the team around that has to be spectacular. Now, Georgia did it with what I would call average QB play with Stetson Bennett in year 1.
Yeah.
And year 2, he stepped his game up
a legendary.
Right. And year 2, he stepped his game up significantly. Yeah. And they needed it. They needed that from him, I think. To pull off another championship. Now, I think they would have been a good team regardless. But that margin, I think it gave them a little bit more margin for error having him step his game up. Again, guys like Bryce Young, and we've set the table so high at QB in this league where QBs are saving the day. And that is becoming more of the norm than it is having average QB play and then having to have just the best team around it. So it's not that there's no scenario where you can get average QB play and still get wins and losses. I'm saying for Auburn, they need to make, and because of where the floor is at right now, where they set the floor, significant improvement is required to even reach a standard level. What we did over the end of last season, that can't be it. Right. The last 4 games where we just ran. That can't be it. Hugh Freeze is not going to run a system like that. That's why I'm saying it's more than just about wins and losses. Listen, is there some outlier scenario where we have we have below average QB play and they go out there, win games and, great. That wouldn't give me a whole lot of hope for the future, though. Not from a guy who touts himself to be a QB guru.
Well, his first job is to win games, though, as a coach, not as the offensive coach or just a quarterback coach. His first job is to win games.
I think he needs QB play to do. I think he needs improved QB play to do it. Is what I'm saying. Right
now, I think he needs improvement a lot of places.
Sure.
Yeah, we need improvement a lot of places to consistently win games. So if it's about what does because you started talking about pressure, right, and how the QBs look. So I get what you're saying in that Hugh Freeze, quarterback guy, offense guy, you need to make these guys look good. I agree with that.
Especially with how bad Auburn has been in those particular areas. Right.
Well, this is where I'm coming to with Hugh Freeze. He has a standard that he's working to. I don't think he needs, Auburn's been really bad at QB, so let me put some extra attention right there. No, he knows what he wants to see from a quarterback. He had a guy in the
I agree with that.
In the Heisman room in the last 5 years, not us. So he has his standard, and I think that he knows. Wait, was Malik Willis not a finalist?
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought he was a finalist.
I don't know if he was. I don't know if he was a finalist.
I don't think he was.
He was in the. He was in the conversation.
He was in the conversation at one point. Yeah,
my bad. I thought Malik was a finalist when those years. I think Hugh Freeze has his own standard that he's working to. Is honestly, with what he said in interviews, talking about lists and stuff, I think Hugh Freeze might be a bit more of a hard ass than I gave him credit for.
100%.
Because he kind of had a goobery personality, you know what I'm saying? But I was like, I don't know, man. They might not. Y'all thought y'all wanted a different coach. I don't know if we're gonna see Hugh Freeze doing the gritty in practice. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, right. And let me tell you something. He kind of had if these motherfuckers don't straighten up.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah, I got the impression in the conversations that we've had with him that he is a lot more of a disciplinarian than a lot of people think. So and hopefully there is balance there. Right. In terms of, because again, when we saw what Gus was, sometimes it just was some guys could get away with a lot.
Yeah, you go.
Right. And other guys, it just seeming like one striking out.
Right.
And then you were wrong.
Yeah.
So hopefully there's a balance there.
We need to look, I think something like what you're saying is, I think about the 2016 season that we had where Sean White was our QB, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we beat up really badly on some teams because we had Cam Petway was out here just hammering people.
Yeah.
And we won. We manufactured 8 wins. And we ended up in the Sugar Bowl because better opponents ended up in bigger bowls, and we got just ran off the field.
Yeah, drug. Yeah, right. Was that
now,
Oklahoma?
It
That was
yeah,
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma,
Yeah.
It was
Now,
Oklahoma.
8 wins is a decent season. It's the Gus special. That's 8
solid.
wins, right?
It's a solid season.
Solid season.
It's a solid season. Okay. But getting run off the field by a non-SEC opponent, who, granted, Oklahoma was good that year. That's the year I think before Baker won the Heisman, so he was rising. They were doing well. Okay, they were good. I think what you're saying, Mike, is okay. It's great if you can win some decent amount of games and make it to that type of bowl, but you still need.
It's not sustainable.
Right.
It's not sustainable. That's Mike's point. It's not sustainable.
Yeah.
You want to look good. You want to look good. Now, let's be clear here. We have plenty of room for improvement on the defensive line. We could not get to the quarterback very well. Ekuleo going down had something to do with that. But also, again, we can get more production from there. We know we can get better at linebacker. Our defense could win us a couple more games.
Sure.
Combined with improved play from the offensive line. Again, like y'all said, we've got so many bodies there that we're like, man, we're definitely going to be great. Well, they kind of have to work it out. Like, they have to figure out who those 5 are going to be. Hope that those guys don't go down to injury. And they are just getting their hands on a lot of guys who just got here like a month ago, or 2 months ago, excuse me. A lot is going on, and they have to sort that out. But it is absolutely possible that with the exact same quarterback, we could be a 3-game better team. Like, that is possible. So what I'm saying to combat I want to see the
Auburn basketball right now.
Okay, yeah, kind of. I want to see us do it. I want to see the wins more than I want to see the quarterback look outstanding in year 1, because I think that's something that can take time too. And I don't think you're going to get a better example of that than what we just saw with Stetson Bennett. You're talking about, hey, you're here as a walk-on. Hey, you're going to have to go down, go somewhere else because you're not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Come here, play decent year 1 as a starter. No, he started some games in 2020 because they beat us in the COVID year. Yeah, it was him shaking somebody out their boots in the COVID year when we played at Georgia. I remember that distinctly. And it was embarrassing. I was like, man, how you going to let this little non-mobile QB do us like this? And I was like, well, it turns out, he's actually pretty good. But 3 years from 2020, 2021, and 2022, you saw him improve.
Yeah,
he
played 8
improved
games in 2020.
So it doesn't. I don't think you have to see a quarterback look just ridiculous. Oh, he looks amazing. Look at all the long passes downfield, the accuracy. No, you just have to. We have to win games while everybody gets better. I think that's far more important than to see a home run hit on a quarterback in year 1.
Yeah, but to be clear, that's not what I'm saying. Right. What I'm saying is right now where the floor is at for Auburn quarterbacks, and based on what he said about quarterback improvement, we should expect significant improvement because the bar is on the floor. Did you hear me? Again, the bar is on the floor. We're not talking about an average guy we're talking about well below average, well below what should be expected to win games from the quarterback position. That's where Auburn's been at. That's what he's inheriting.
And that's why I say they can't get worse. But that's why I feel like it can't get. It is on the floor. It's already there.
Yeah. It's on the floor. So moving forward, what are we been saying about Auburn basketball right now? Right, like is they're a great defensive team, top 10 nationally in defense. Sure. Yet can't win a close game because again, offensively, the bar's on the floor.
Yeah.
Right, and every time they've been just average, which is just over 45% shooting, they're winning games.
Yeah.
I feel like Auburn football has the same dichotomy right now. Now, the defense may not be top 10 nationally, but they can't afford to have a night off because of how bad they've been playing offensively at times. Right? And it even makes what they did over the last 4 games of last season even more spectacular because when you are one-dimensional in any sport, when you're going against top-tier competition, it's difficult, right? Like if you got good big men, but you can't shoot, teams will find a way to defend you. Just to at least slow down the one thing that you do well and count on the fact that you will continue to be extremely bad at the other thing that you don't do well. So the improvement that we're looking for, and why I think, again, we can't, for Auburn, I don't think you can separate the talk about quarterback play and wins and losses. And I'm not saying there's no scenario where they don't get great quarterback play but win games somehow. But I don't think that's the situation that Hugh is in. I think personally he needs it because of where they're at currently. He needs average quarterback play. And then, again, to be to your point, everybody raises their game behind them. And that's where you see the wins and losses improve. Because here's the deal. If let's say quarterback play stayed the same and he turned in a 9-win season, I'm going to be bearish on Auburn football going into 2024.
I'd be encouraged because that means he knows how to either make a switch at quarterback. Like if you can get everything around the quarterback working enough for us to get, would you say 8 wins? It just depends what you say about everything around the quarterback, right? Because I expect everybody else to get better. I'm expecting everybody else to get better. And if you're not getting better at that one thing, you're going to get it. There's a whole bunch of tape on what you did. Oh, for sure.
There's a whole bunch of tape on what you did. So I would be bearish. I just want to see improvement, particularly at quarterback, because it just seems historically with Auburn, when they have gotten the quarterback play, they have been in the championship conversation.
But that's everybody.
But again, that's football. That's football today.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
football today.
Rare at Auburn, though, is what I'm saying. It's been rare, and it just feels like everybody else can just find a quarterback.
Well, listen. Things appear to be changing with this current coaching staff. We have a QB of the future, but we have to establish our QB for the present. So that remains to be seen starting tomorrow. Blake Robinson says, not that I don't think Robbie or Holden can improve and do it, but I just truly believe we're getting our Joe Burrow-esque QB1 out of the portal after spring. It just has that feel for me. War Eagle gentlemen, could happen. I just know that's a lot has to work out. It's almost, you got to kind of be lucky.
That's a hit of the lottery, man.
Yeah, you got to be lucky. This coming. You get low key. You got to be kind of lucky the first portal when it opened up, but you really got to have a lot of luck this time.
Yeah,
in my opinion,
and
it can happen.
NIL is changing this conversation as well, too, man.
That's true.
There are so many things that are just a factor that haven't been a factor before in the past. That, man, who knows?
Joshua Jordan, great comment here. Says, I think Hugh is being truthful, but I believe there's a reason we are starting spring practice early this year. He wants to be prepared to hit the portal, all caps, if he has to.
Right.
Great comment.
Listen, the only thing that I will say about this, Joshua, is I don't think it's an if. I think he has to hit the portal regardless, because to Caesar's point, one of these top 3 quarterbacks that you have is not going to be on the roster after spring. Somebody's gone. And you need to go get a guy, and depending on how guys develop, right? Let's say Robbie looks great, but Holden is iffy, and but TJ Finley, I don't think he wants. He's not going to be. I don't think he wants to stay anywhere where he's going to be a backup.
Right.
So he's gone. Right. You still got to go get a guy.
He's a guy I think transfers.
Yeah, I think there's just so many conversations where you just have to go get a guy regardless. It's just under what circumstances are you going to get that guy?
Right.
Desperate for a QB1, looking for a QB2, or just looking to create competition and just make sure you have depth for the future.
Yeah.
Three totally different scenarios, but either way, you're in the portal looking for somebody.
Regardless. It's time to do a drawing, guys, so we can get out of here. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. Guess we had a lot to talk about, man. There's a lot going on here.
And we still got more.
Great show. I know. Are you previewing? Are you previewing the showdown with you and Mike?
Yeah. The morning drops.
All
you know
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're giving away an AU t-shirt courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. That is our guy, Walt Taylor. Appreciate you, Walt, for sponsoring this, and we appreciate you guys for dropping a hashtag. How many do we have?
50.
50. All right, let's draw.
So, now, hold on, wait. Listen, I'm gonna be nice to y'all today because Ike gives y'all exactly negative 10 seconds to get in.
I gave him 50 minutes.
We are an hour and 53
I
minutes
gave him
into the
50
show.
minutes. You don't want this shirt.
I'm going 5 more seconds here. Okay. Listen, 2 more people got a shot. You got 4 seconds. All right. We're rolling with this thing. Boom. Who's it going to be today? Who's it going to be? Is it going to be somebody with a B? Erica.
I know she in here.
Frozen, they did you dirty, Frozen. It stuck on you alone, Frozen Heart Gaming there.
Yeah, right.
It did you greasy.
Greasy.
But Erica, are you here?
Gotta
Let us
be
know
here.
if you are here.
I gotta be here for your t-shirt.
Let's see. Are there any other comments?
I'm so excited for spring to start, guys. Like,
so let's talk about it, Mike. You're going to be at the practices. Are you going to be? Are you going to? Obviously, you're going to be talking a little bit based on what you're able to see and observe. Obviously,
yeah, for sure.
So guys, this is an opportunity for us to kind of advertise our morning drops. Mike G will definitely be talking about that based on what he's seeing in practice. So you definitely want to tune in to hear our takes on that for sure.
Yeah.
Erica, I do see you in here. I can't believe it. She is here. Here's what you need to do. First off, congrats, but you need to email your shirt size and your physical address to business@thewar We need your shirt size, or else is Schmedium is that the same for women too?
Yeah, man. Listen, Schmedium does not discriminate based on gender. Give us a shirt size or whatever we send you will not fit, and we're going to laugh about it. Yeah, they're going to be happy. So I know Erica is going to send us her shirt size.
Congrats, Erica. Appreciate it.
And get something she can wear proudly. And you guys, like, listen, you guys have been wearing your War Report stuff, man.
Hey,
Now that I've been at a lot of the games, just seeing our gear around, it's much appreciated. You guys wear that to Auburn events, yeah. So it's cool to see.
Mike G, tell the people what NDB. This is a great live, man. A lot of good discussion around spring as well as basketball. But we also got other content that you cannot access for free, but it's just as dope, arguably even better. Mike, tell people how they can get to it.
Hey, listen, man, become a patron member. Smash the like button, smash the Patreon button. If you see a button on our website or on YouTube channel, smash it. Chances are it leads to something great, right? Unless it's the unsubscribe button. Do not smash that one. But $5.99 a month.
There's an unsubscribe button?
Yeah, I think there is. If you subscribed, then it turns into an unsubscribe button.
Yeah, but I don't know what that is. Yeah, not with the War Report.
You're right.
That's not a thing.
So become a patron member. We love all of our subscriptions, but we love patron members because you guys help keep us in a position where we can continue to bring you guys this content, essentially what has been 7 days a week, even in the off season. So, we need 8 more subscriptions to get to 10,000, but there's no limit to the amount of patron members that we're looking for, guys. Just join our community in this way and help us support the content that we're doing financially. Small $5.99 a month, you'll probably forget about it as soon as you subscribe. You can give the gift of the War Report by just gifting a membership. Hit that gift membership button if you interact with our channel at a high level, but you have not subscribed as a patron yet. You're more likely to receive this or be on the receiving end of one of these gifted memberships. It lasts for a month, and after a month you can make the decision about whether you want to continue the membership or not. But there's going to be a lot of content coming here that Ike is going to be putting out in terms of film review that you don't want to miss, man. It's really good stuff that you really can't find anywhere else. Nobody is breaking down Auburn from a video review standpoint like we are for our patron members. So if you want to see consistent content of that nature for football and basketball, again, these gifted memberships are really a plus. I'll promise you guys, if you haven't seen this stuff, you definitely want to see it. Subscribe to us on podcasts as well. Every single podcast platform, we're out there putting podcast exclusive content. Mike Mack and Memes, the Amen Corner podcast, which is one of my favorite. The morning drops are coming to you guys on podcast as well as our normal live content in audio form. So you definitely do not want to miss that. I definitely want to give a shout out to one of our sponsors here. The graphic isn't here, but Prize Picks. We want to shout out Prize Picks for being a longtime sponsor of the War Report, as well as the Rogue Shop. So both those forums, you can go and use code Report for Prize Picks. Use code Report and get 100% match on that first deposit when you sign up. I've been going at it on Prize Picks myself personally because it's one of the few things we can do in Alabama. Alabama, for whatever reason, allows Prize Picks, so we're thankful to the state for not banning everything. And then for the Rogue Shop, longtime sponsor, use code Report to get 15% off that purchase of your candle because the candles are amazing.
What's also even amazing is if you share this content too, guys, on social media, please do that. Smash that like button, unsubscribe, subscribe to our channel, please.
Wrong thing.
You can find us on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook at The War Report. We're TW Report on TikTok. Guys, we will see you tomorrow morning, and we will be providing you some coverage of spring practice, at least the part that is visible for media. We'll keep you locked here. We're going to be your source for that. Holler at us. Until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend, your Sunday. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.